What's up? It's Luke. We're talking minor pentatonic scales today. We got 5 of those babies, and I'm going to show you all 5 of them, but also why you should start and end on root notes wherever you can. But let's get right into it, into position 1, and I'll show you why that is. So the first one sounds like this. And I purposefully skipped that one at the top. You can rock that one, but again, I'm trying to start and end on those root notes because it gives your ear something to latch onto, and it also helps you remember that there's only 5 notes in that scale. When people play those scales like this, stuff like that might be good for speed, but to me, it just sounds like a flurry of notes and doesn't really have the definition of that minor pentatonic scale. Pentatonic meaning that it only has 5 notes, and we can count them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is just a repeat of that. And then the upper part of that is just another octave, but it's the same notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? That's the root note again there. And we should try and do that with each of the scales. But first I want to show you, I'm going to play a little bit of a backing track. And just even practicing from root to root, it's going to sound a lot more musical than just blasting through it. For example, like this. We could go... And that's obviously a very simple thing, but it sounds at least more musical to me than if we went... If you know what I mean, it's helping you realize where those home bases are, and when you're making licks, it's good to kind of start there, go off on a little journey, and come back home. Of course, it gets more complicated than that, but at least when you're starting off, I think that's a really good thing for your ears. So let's go on to position 2, and I'll show you what that looks like playing root to root. So that last little bit, right, that's kind of a long run, but still I think it's worth coming back in there. In reality, a lot of the times when you're using that scale, you're going to come past it and back into position 1. But just to remember that that's where you're going. And again, if you check this out, you can see that those are the exact same notes as this. They've just been shifted a little bit, right? And that's the same thing that's happening with all of the rest of the patterns. So it gives you a little more context for those too, because they're weird feeling shapes. Once you get used to that first pentatonic shape, it just feels so good in the hands, and that's why so many guitar players have used it so much, right? It just really is ergonomic. But some of these other positions can become a little bit more accessible if you get a grip on where you are using those root notes. So let's go to position 3. There's another root right here, and it looks like this. Again, going past that root and coming back, and you could mix those patterns, and come way back here, but I think it is good to practice each of the patterns by themselves before connecting them. So that would be position 3, and then we can move to position 4 using this same root. There we are, back home again. And then position 5 would look like this. And of course we can play that scale right back here as well. Right? And just to illustrate that again, here's that root note right here. That is the same thing as this right here. Right where we were starting off on the A minor. So again, I think think starting and ending on those root notes will really make it easier on your ear to find home base. And then again, to create licks. For example, if I play this thing again, you know, just even something like that feels a lot more musical than going, you know, because that note can sound good, but it doesn't sound like home, that's for sure. And then especially when you start exploring those other patterns, right? You know, just simple things like that. But I think it's maybe a little bit harder to practice at first that way, finding those roots, but you do get the added benefit of learning where the notes are on the fretboard again, which is a super powerful thing to get under your belt. You know, there's another A there, there's your A in that scale, here's your scale, your A here, which is a super transferable skill. So that's how I'd recommend going about learning those minor pentatonic scales. Let me know if you have any questions, and happy practicing. Peace.